Welcome back for the second episode in my series of Get Gwenting, an introduction of Gwent for beginners. You're at your first crossroads. You can be somebody who skips training because you don't need that. You've evolved way beyond it. You're going to watch all my videos and I'm going to teach you everything you're ever going to need to know. Go ahead and click that button down over here on the left if that's you. If you're somebody who wants just a little bit more description, and I was this person, so note that that's just how I feel, I am going to go ahead and walk you through the next part of this tutorial. We're going to press next and do some training with our first faction deck. So we press next, it's going to load you into the screen. All this is telling you is if you log in every day and it's going to give you a countdown when a new day begins, you're going to get these rewards. I do recommend when you're very first starting Gwent, just log in for 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, 10 seconds, and click this screen just to get your free stuff. It's worth doing. So that's what you're going to do, and that's going to progress you to the next screen. The next screen is you get to choose your starting faction. And it used to tell you that you should play monsters first. It doesn't tell you that anymore, and I actually agree with that because they've gotten more complicated. Choose whichever one floats your boat. I don't know. It's not. You're going to unlock all of the cards. So see it here. It says, "Don't worry. After 3 matches, you'll unlock them all." Now I am going to start with Skellige just because on my channel we have a weekly rotation. Every day of the week we do a different card, a different deck, a different focus. So Mondays are Morkvarg Mondays, which you'll learn who he is. Don't worry. For Skellige. Tuesdays are Temerian Tuesdays for Northern Realms. This symbol right here is the Temerian fleur-de-lis, so that's why we call it Temerian Tuesdays. Wednesdays are Wild Hunt Wednesdays. This is Eridan, leader of the Wild Hunt, and he's the leader of a faction of monsters. So Wild Hunt Wednesdays. Thursdays are Thirsty Thursdays because intrigue at the palace court, you know. Nilfgaard is the huge empire that loves wine. So Thirsty Thursdays. Then we have Firesworn Fridays, which you can't even choose them because they're a faction you unlock later, so don't worry about it. Well, that's Syndicate. And then Squirrel Saturdays or Scoia'tael. Scoia'tael in Elven or the ancient language means squirrel. So that's why we call it Scoia'tael. So it actually means squirrel tail. But anyway. So Scoia'tael Saturdays. So we're going to start with Skellige because that's how we roll. So it is going to tell you here there are 3 different leader choices and it's going to describe to you all of these. So if you want to see all of these in action and read the descriptions for all of these all on your own without any help from me whatsoever, you can just click on one, press back, click on the next one, press back, read through all of them. Woo! Lots of cool stuff you can do. And if you're somebody who has watched The Witcher and you like Witcher content, read through them. See which card plays things that you like. Artorias Vigo really gets you going? You like watching him rule all of the other mages in the Witcher series? Yeah, go ahead. Use this one. Oh, are you a big fan of the Duchess in Witcher 3? Go ahead, use Duchess Informant. That's pretty fun for you. But if you are a Skellige fan, which I like kind of all the factions, you can choose the cards that you like. You like Madman Lugos? Crazy dude who just kills bears for fun just to wake himself up in the morning? Go ahead and use Patricidal Fury. Patricidal Fury is a really great way to get synergy with other cards. I'm going to make this suggestion to you when you are very first starting Gwent. Try to get away from leaders that you can only use once. And you'll see when I very first click on it, it'll show you he has 1 leader charge here. Veteran is actually called Reckless Flurry now. Oh, it's telling you actually how all the cards work, not what the leaders are, even though it is showcasing different leaders. So they have Patricidal Fury is how you is what this is going to start you off as. We can change it later, but we have a card type called Veteran. These are card keywords. I'm going to teach you what these are. Don't worry about it. Select deck. Are you sure? It doesn't matter. Honestly, just choose the one that makes you happy. And it's going to put you automatically into training mode, so you're not going to play other people. You're just playing an intelligent golem. which is fun. Yeah. Okay. Woo! There's a bunch of cards. Is that how you felt? Don't worry about it. I got you. Here's what you're going to think about. Remember what I told you in that very first video? If you see a special card, don't worry about it. Just put it back. It's just a little bit too much stress for you. Not going to lie. John, you don't need more stress in your life. Next thing I want you to do when you're playing Skellige is look for cards that say veteran. And if it's a bronze card, remember we want to keep golds because there aren't that many and they're really valuable and they play for the most points. Next thing you want to do is look for veteran. And veteran, if you read this on the side, is at the start of the second and third round, increase the base power of this unit by 1. So what that means, if you remember, we play over 3 rounds. After you finish the first round, this card is going to go from 5 points to 6 points. And start of third round, it's going to go from 6 points to 7 points. So she is more valuable later on. So we're actually just going to say, hey, I don't want you round 1. You're better round 3. None of these other cards are veterans. All of these cards play for the same number of points round 1 as they do for round 3. We're going to say, we don't need you. Go ahead and go back home. Done. Next thing's next for Skellige. You want on-crate longship working for you. These are the best pirates on all the Skellige seas. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Torsic or Drummond. On-crates are better than everyone else. If you haven't played the games or you haven't watched the show, don't worry about it. It'll make sense for you later on. But this on-crate longship, when he's on the melee row, is going, whenever an opponent plays an enemy unit, you damage it by 1. So every time the opponent plays anything, I get an extra... I get a net 1 point because the opponent loses 1. So we're just going to play that here and say, ha, awesome. But he has to stay on this row. So if the opponent does something to move it off of that row, that could cause problems for us. I'm not even going to describe what the opponent's doing because we're going to cover monsters later. Don't think about it. Okay, so here, remember how I said if it stayed on that row? All right, so they moved it back and then they moved it back again. So, I don't know. Not the world's smartest cup of chocolate. I don't know. We're going to go ahead and play down on-crate greatsword. These guys are 10 points. Holy cow, that's so many. You're right, it is. But on deploy, he's going to damage himself by 6 down to 4. But whenever an enemy takes damage, he's going to heal himself by 1. And since it's a heal, it's going to cap out at his base value, which is at 10 points. So basically, he starts out at 4 and he works his way back to 10. So we want him to start working his way back to 10. I'm not playing this on the other row because I have Frost here. And Frost, if you just hover over this, is going to tell you, start of the owner's turn, damage the highest power unit on this row by 2, which is this ship. So if nothing's on this row, nothing happens. So we're just trying to keep him out of that row. Again, honestly, we're just going to ignore what the opponent's doing. Just worry about you. If you can just worry about getting your own points set up, you're going to be just fine. I'm not going to worry about what the cards do, but I do need to pay attention as Skellige to whether or not there are cards in the red. The number of cards in the red means the number of Bloodthirst I have. So this is Bloodthirst 2, damage an enemy unit by 4 instead. So normally he just damages by 2, but if there are 2 units in the red, he's going to go ahead and damage it by 4. So he's really good, but he's a gold card, and I'm up in points. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to play a Svalbard Ravager, who does 2 damage. Bloodthirst 2, give it bleeding. Now what's bleeding? Well, you're going to find out. I'm going to come up here, and we're going to do this damage. Bleeding shows up as these dripping red points, and it shows these down arrows. Bleeding, status that damages this unit by 1 on its turn end. Nope, bleeding turns can accumulate. 1 turn of bleeding cancels out 1 turn of vitality. So they've added a lot more descriptions since when I first started, and that's really helpful. But basically all this means is at the end of this player's turn, this unit is going to lose 1 point of health. And it's going to do that for as many turns as bleeding is on there. So for the next 2 turns they end, he's going to lose 1 health point, which is going to make the opponent lose points, but it's also going to boost up my on-crate greatsword, because whenever an enemy takes damage, he's going to heal himself by 1. And remember, he played down for 4. Then the opponent played this. The longship damaged it by 1. Then this Svalbard Ravager damaged it by 2. Oh, why didn't he go up by 2? Well, it's just every time the unit takes damage. Not how much damage it takes. Every time it takes damage. So that's what's happening right there. We're just going to go ahead and end the turn and wait for this unit to take some bleed damage and get him healed up again. And if this is a unit, which it is, he's going to go up to 7 points. And the opponent is just accumulating a bunch of value here, which is fine. They can do that. Geralt will destroy an enemy of 9 power or more, and he's really good. Usually you do want to use him, but I don't need him right now. So I'm going to play something else that gives me a little bit more flexibility. We're going to just go ahead here and... actually, we're up by 8 points. We're going to take a pass here. The opponent also passes, and we win. So we won on evens, which means that you and the opponent have the same number of cards. Ooh, surrender is actually really quite good. I didn't know they gave you surrender for free. They've added a bunch of nice new cards. Drummond Berserker is a great add. Alright, this guy also has veteran, but we won on evens, which means that we can do something called bleed the opponent. Now, there are those bleedings that we put on this Barwagazi. I'm not talking about that. What we're instead trying to do here is forcing the opponent to play all of their good cards. If we can force them to play all of their good cards, then we have a really strong chance of winning the game, because we can play some like our best cards the next round, how we want them. And what matters here too, remember how we talked about those leader charges? So they start off with 2. They've already used them. We, on the other hand, haven't used ours at all. And our guy plays for 11 points. And then he puts 3 Deafening Sirens, each worth 1 point. So he plays for a net 8 points, but he damages the units. So we're able to get that value onto like Greatsword and other stuff like that. But here we're going to go ahead and play an On-Crate Raider, because he has one of those orders, and we want to be able to use that. And the opponent has something called Dominance. Dominance, we're not reading. We're not worrying about the opponent's stuff. I'm not even going to describe it. Not worth time. Don't worry about it. What we're going to do here, he has this order, and I know I told you, always just use these first. Don't do that here. What we're going to do is go ahead and play this Greatsword. And then we're going to go ahead and damage one of these units. Bing, bada, boom. Just... the only thing I'm going to say here is I care about having a bigger unit than the opponents. Don't think about it any other way than that. Having the biggest unit on the board is really cool, and I should do that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and play this Drummond Berserker. So he has something called Berserk, which is trigger this ability when base power is equal to or lower than the specified amount. So he, at the end of every turn, is going to damage himself and a random enemy unit by 1. And then when he hits Berserk 3, he's going to transform into a Bear Abomination, which I'll show you what this means. But basically, he's going to damage himself and enemy unit by 1 point, which gets that heal onto this Greatsword. And then after he's done that 2 times, he's going to transform himself into a 6-point unit. So he just has like this really, really good outcome for us of getting us points. Now, I'm glad I saved my Geralt here, because they have this really big unit that's bigger than my Greatsword, but I can go ahead and just kill him right now. Bing, bada, boom. I'm the best. Try not to laugh at myself too much. And you might be wondering, what are those things on your arm? I got oil burns from making chicken wings. They hurt. Don't do that. Alrighty. At this point, we are up so much in points, we can do whatever we want. I'm going to play this just so you guys can see how this works. So Derige Vol has this deploy called Lock. Now, all these units have special things that they do. So remember, like, this guy heals himself every time something happens. This guy used to be a different unit that damaged enemy units and then transformed into this. Well, say people are going to do things you don't like. So this Foglet, when he dies off, is going to spawn Fog. And I don't like that. Fog does damage to my units. So I'm going to go ahead and play this guy and stop him from being able to do that when he dies. So locking just says, whatever you're doing, I don't like it. You can't do it. All right, we're up by 23 points here. So I could keep playing to try to win the opponent, just beat them outright. But I'm feeling pretty confident about where we are. Let's play Donar and Hindar. We can't play a long ship again. We've kind of drawn all of our golds except for Skellige. So there's not a whole lot waiting for us on the other side. I'm not going to use my leader, but I'm going to keep playing cards here because I do think I can get better value than the opponent can. Alright, this is kind of perfect for Madman Lugos. Damage an enemy unit by twice the number of damaged enemies. 1, 2, 3, 4. 8 damage. Bye-bye. So this great, you're seeing this long ship get us a lot of really good points here by just saying to the opponent, as soon as you play something, I'm going to go ahead and hit you. Nothing you can do about it. We're going to just go ahead and play him. We're not going to use his charges yet. He does get Zeal. So Zeal means if you can satisfy this condition, then you can use your orders right away. So remember how usually it says like ZZZ, meaning you have to wait a whole turn to do it? Well, we have Bloodthirst. Actually, we have Bloodthirst 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's greater than or equal to 2. So he gets Zeal, which means he can do it right away. So we could use his attacks. There's no reason to, so I'm not going to here. The only reason I'd really want to is if I was worried that he was going to get killed by something the opponent was going to play. Not an issue. Bye-bye to that. Nothing it can do. We are the greatest player to ever play this game. No one has been better. Just kidding. So there you go. Pretty easily defeated the opponent here. So that's kind of a basic introduction to Skellige. I think it's going to have us do one more game, but when you first do your first one, they give you a keg, which gives you card choices. And this is basically how you get all of the cards in Gwent. And I have all of them in my other account, so it is something you can totally do without spending any money in the game. It just takes you a little while. And so I have gotten each of these cards now, and they're now mine. And when you click on the middle, you get to choose one of the 3. Well, you know, special cards are okay. This card's fine. I'm going to give you another tip and trick. So it doesn't matter to you right now. We're going to cover deck building in a bunch of videos, not anytime soon. Just know that this number on the bottom is the best representation of how good the card is. The lower the number, the worse it is. The higher the number, the better it is. And these numbers go from 4 to 15. There's only one card at 15. Most cards are somewhere between 4 and 12. There's only a few cards outside of that range. So 6 is better than 5, which is better than 4. And we just played this guy, and we know we like him. So we're going to take him. We're going to say, hey, we want you. Join us in our our plunder and overseas in spring. All right, so standard mode. Well, if I play this, it'll unlock it back. When you play in standard mode, you're playing against other real people. So this is your first chance playing Gwent. Interesting. This will be a fun matchup. Put our veteran cards back. He's also a veteran, but he does do that 2 damage, so he's useful to me. But I'm going to put 1 back. Oh, perfect. Alright, we're going to just go ahead and play this long ship and boost it up. And we missed a whole bunch of drawing into a bunch of our golds, so we want to kind of see if we can get those later on. Now we're going to play this blacksmith. So when you start out with Skellige, you're going to start off with this deck. So if you chose Skellige, this is what you're going to get. But he has an order, boost an allied unit by 1, charge 1, gain 1 charge whenever you play a warrior. We have a bunch of warriors. You can see this in the description. Human warrior, human cultist warrior, human warrior, human warrior, human pirate warrior. So we got a bunch of warriors. So we're going to play him. Every time we play one, we're going to be able to boost them. And this little bar right here is how long you have left in your turn. So when it goes all the way down, if you haven't played something, it will automatically destroy one of your cards by throwing it into your graveyard without you playing it, and it's a huge bummer. Don't do that. Alright, so here we're actually going to go ahead and play this Brokvar Hunter. Use his ability. He has a 2-turn cooldown on range, so we have to play him to range. He gets Zeal straight away, so he can straight away do this 1 damage. And every 2 turns, he's able to do 1 damage. Now, if I play a beast, it reduces his cooldown by 1. We don't have any beasts, so that's not going to happen for us. There are none in our deck, so no reason to wait to play him later on when we don't have any of those. So the opponent is playing these agents, which are disloyal, meaning they play on my side of the board but do stuff for him. And this is actually a really poor way of playing because everybody starts off with Geralt. So the bigger you build a card here, the worse, the more points you set up for me to automatically kill. So I don't love that choice that the opponent's making there. So there are some 4 and 5 point removal cards. So we're going to go ahead and use this to get him boosted up. Just in case the opponent has something that could go ahead and kill him off right away. So it looks like the opponent opted to pass. So we went ahead and passed as well. Here we're just going to try to play out a couple of our cards we don't love a whole lot. These Ravagers I don't love all that much, so we'll put them back. Okay, great. So I'm going to show you guys one way that you can perform an effective bleed, and that's going to be to play down a card with an order. We're up by 2 cards. Sorry, we're down by 1 card, and we can play 2 before we get to 7. So this deploy was boost self by every tactic in hand and looked like he didn't have any. So we're going to go ahead and just smack this guy, do some damage. And we're going to play just this Drummond Berserker here, who's going to automatically do this random damage. And we know that he's going to for sure be able to damage somebody. And he's going to change into this Bear Abomination. And in my experience, people do very poorly with math. So we're just going to go ahead here and pass. The opponent's going to go down to 3. And we're going to go up to 9. And this is not quite enough points for the opponent. See how we're tied? So the opponent has to play 1 more card. And we have now performed a successful bleed because we were able to play fewer cards than the opponent. and force them to play a lot more than us. So they actually played 4 cards, and we only played 2. And remember, math is all about how many cards you've played and when. So that's really an effective thing for us. So these invaders have something called Veil. Veil status that prevents unit from gaining other statuses. So remember that lock where we could tell unit, no, you can't do that. We're going to stop you in your tracks. Well, you can use that lock to do that. But because she has Veil, you can't lock her. She doesn't do anything, so it doesn't matter. But there are other things called Poison and Bleed that you saw before that will sometimes do that. So let's hurry up and just get through this game. Let's go ahead here. I like these on-crate raiders because they threaten that damage. It looks like the opponent has saved up both of their charges, so they have these locks that they can use. And then we are actually going to get out this Brokvar Hunter here and just start attacking the enemy. Just getting this damage slowly over time. Building up a number of units that are damaged already so we can get this Bloodthirst synergy. And we now are just going to go ahead and play this Tursic Invader. She doesn't do anything, she just points. And we're putting her down just so we can wait for his cooldown to come back. Remember, this guy just has an order, there's no cooldown, so we can only use it once. And we're waiting to use it so that we can use it with our greatsword and get several units damaged all at the same time. I'm actually going to go ahead here and play Arnulf just because the opponent has locks and he will stop healing himself as soon as he gets locked. So we're going to go ahead here and play this. He comes down, he's going to send out these 3 harpies, or deafening sirens, and then he's going to damage them each by 1. So he plays for 8 points, but he damages these 3 units. So you're seeing here him damage those and getting that greatsword healed right back up. We're going to go ahead and play this Drummond Berserker here. So the opponent did some damage to this greatsword with that Owzer's Thunder, but they're opting not to go ahead and use this lock for some reason. But they were able to kill him off, which is probably a good move. We're just going to keep hammering away here. No reason for us to get super antsy about using this. We can get 4 points of value by hitting this Elder Bear. And if we're being honest with ourselves, the opponent is way down in value compared to where we are. And I'm waiting to play Skal because his Berserk 5 is Destroy Self, so he just is a really vulnerable unit that plays for 10 points. So we're just going to leave him up there to lock him. Okay, they played this to melee instead of range. It needs to go to range, so we could have shown you poison. Unfortunately, they made poor choices, so we are where we are. Alright, there's nothing really to lock, so we'll play Skjall here. Interesting. And they still have both of their leader charges that they just never used. And the polite thing to do here is actually just to pass. But you can play out all your cards if you want to. But we'll go ahead and take the pass here. That's the win. That's the W in our very first player versus player game. Pretty fun. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I hope you feel like, oh, I can play Gwent. If Gone Gaming can do it, anybody can do it. Because that's kind of true. Not going to lie. We're going to talk all about these mosaic pieces and these crown pieces later on. Don't worry about them quite yet. Just for right now, note that you played your first deck as Skellige. And welcome. And you got your very first card back that you can equip to your deck. You get 2 of them. You get whatever one the faction is. Then you get your Greenhorn card back basic that you can play as well. So we're going to get in here. We're going to show you more games and more decks. We'll have to finish playing out the Skellige deck 2 more times, which I'll just do off stream. And then we will come back and show you what to do next with the next faction, which will be Northern Realms. Until next time, though, good luck out there. Have fun. Keep on Gwenting. Bye for now.